rebuilding. The catastrophic failure, a new start, physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40 who focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, welcome back to the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Today, we are sitting with Phil Armstrong, another cool interview we're about to do. Phil is the man behind Pure Strength protein bars, but Phil's also got quite the story. I've met Phil briefly a while back through Shane Miller at Physicstream, a CrossFit gym on the Gatineau side and Quebec side. And Shane's a good shit. And, anyone Shane likes, I like, that kind of thing. So I've always been kind of aware of what Phil's been up to. We follow each other on Facebook, that kind of thing. And I've been trying to get Phil in front of us for a little bit because I really like his story, and he's going to get into himself, much like me, some struggles with some addictions, but also an entrepreneur. And again, to me, the example of no matter what's going on in your life, you can turn shit around, you can get things done. But at the same token, I think it's also going to be pretty real about how the fact that it's not every day is a picnic. And I think there's going to be some really good, valuable lessons that we can get from how Phil's going about things that we could use in our own lives for our own struggles and successes. That makes sense? So Phil, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks a lot.
And no problem. So we're going to get into the bars and the brand as well too. But first, I'd like a little bit of background. Tell us a bit about yourself. Some highs, some lows. You're 47.
47 years old.
Right.
48 in September.
48 in September. They always follow each other like that kind of thing. And I know you're into the CrossFit. I know you're into the Spartan racing and stuff as well.
Yeah, that's right.
But tell us a bit. Was it always that? That kind of. Have you always been into fitness? Have you always been into that kind of thing? Just tell us 101 on Phil.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And so was I always into fitness? I guess so. I mean, as a kid, I worked at the local gym where I grew up, handing out towels and being a cashier and that kind of thing. And I was too small to play football, so I ran track.
Okay.
But I was slow, but I liked running then. Then I moved away to go to university and discovered that I really, really liked drinking alcohol.
Okay.
And from there, I went through most of my university career either drunk or drinking.
Okay.
But somehow managed to graduate, went to graduate school, managed to graduate from that, and then I needed a job. So I found a job with the government. I was working behind a desk, 8-9 hours a day, and I guess I could say I was pretty good at what I did, but it made me utterly miserable. The dilemma that I faced with that, though, was I had a big student loan, so I needed the job to pay the student loan.
Okay.
The job was making me miserable. Then, because I was miserable, I started drinking more. So you have this cycle going on. I got to pay my bills, so I got to keep my job. My job makes me miserable, so I'm going to self-medicate. I'm going to find things that make me feel better. And that went on for a good 18 years. 18 years of that cycle of working to pay the bills, to be miserable, to afford to drink, to keep working so I could keep paying the bills.
The vicious cycle.
Yeah, it was terrible. And what happened to me, quite honestly, was an impaired driving charge.
Okay.
Woke me up to the fact that, okay, wait a second, what I'm doing isn't working, and I got to find something else to do.
Okay.
So what I did there was I reached out for some help. I got some addiction counseling, and after 30 days sober, I started to feel a little bit better. After 60 days sober, I started to feel a little bit better. And then I want to tell a story that kind of
Please, yeah.
that might help out here, is that I took some time off of work after I got sober.
Okay.
And then I went back to work after about 3 months away.
Okay.
And people at work would say to me, wow, Phil, you look fantastic. What did you do? I had lost about 20 pounds at that point, and people would say, wow, your skin looks clearer, your eyes look clearer, you look like you lost weight, you seem happier. What's your secret? And so I told them, well, I started taking care of myself. I cut out alcohol, I cut out drugs, I started eating better. And universally, the reaction that people would have is, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, wow, you look fantastic. You look great, but that seems like too much for me.
Right. Yeah.
And
you had to do that, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't have to,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to. And that got me thinking, well, wait a second. Like, okay, who's driving the bus here?
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, a message I would have for all of the listeners is that we have the power to create the life that we want to live. And we don't have to go through a cycle of work to pay the bills to afford to have a certain lifestyle that is making us unhappy. We have the power to create the life that we want to have, and that's part of what I did. So I left the government. I left that office job. I'd say about 18 months out. Like with 18 months of sobriety, I walked out the door. Thank you very much, and started building a life that I love living, to be quite honest.
How many years ago was that?
So that was so I got sober in 2007.
I saw that on Facebook today. 10 years.
Yeah,
Good job,
a little
bro.
over 10 years.
Good job,
But it's today that counts. There's a
Yeah.
good chance I'll get my head on the pillow sober tonight. So
That's good.
So that's what matters. And then so in 2010 I started teaching part-time at a local college. I realized I really, really liked doing that. I really like connecting with people. And that's when I started training again more seriously. So I met up with Shane at Phys Extreme, CrossFit 819 in Gatineau, and started realizing, hey, wait a second. I like lifting heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I like flipping giant tractor tires. Sledgehammers are great.
Yeah.
So the more I did it, the better I felt. The better I felt, the more I wanted to do it. And so for me, that's how I got kind of back on my feet physically from a training perspective. And then the other part of it was, with all of the training I was doing, I realized I was hungry all the time. And I really needed to change my diet to get away from eating a lot of the processed foods or making poor food choices.
Right.
And I started making better food choices. So that's how I got into. For a long time, I would supplement with different types of protein bars that I would find at the grocery store or at Costco or wherever.
Right.
And that helped for a while until I, started reading the labels of what actually goes into this stuff.
Right.
And that it kind of hit me one day that, well, wait a second, maybe I like to cook and I like to eat.
Right.
So
maybe there's something here.
Maybe there might be something here. That's
Interesting too that, obviously, just listening to your story and you had that bottom incident, right? We all, no matter where we are in life, once we make that change to pivot and to make things better, we're going to hit a bottom. Something finally says that's enough is enough, right?
Right.
When you're dealing with an addiction, sometimes it's a little more dramatic or I don't know, it's hard to explain unless you've gone through it.
Right.
That kind of thing. But I think we all hit it. But I think there's also a point in our lives for people that have turned things around that they find their bottom. They have a point where they say enough is enough overall. And I think that's super important. And you kind of, looking back and coming up on 4 years sober, it's kind of weird, but I kind of wish that on people, that they have that moment, you call it an epiphany, hitting a bottom. But I think we need that. We need that to make us stop and look at what's really happening and evaluate what we're doing and say, hey, I can't keep doing this over and over again because it's insane, right?
Absolutely.
You get caught in that circle we talked about earlier, being painted into a corner and stuff. If you're not wired to do something and you're stuck doing it, it's a hell, right? That kind of thing.
It absolutely is.
I've been self-employed for so many years, and like I said, I've had great years, but I've had a lot of tough years. And at the end of the day, I know that if I had a gig, let's say with the government and stuff, I would be at a point this much time in, being a pretty smart guy, I would make a really good salary and have that kind of thing. But I also know I wouldn't be happy with that.
Absolutely.
I would be miserable. Now, don't get me wrong. There's days where, having 50 grand cash in my personal bank account, I'm sure would make me happy, that kind of thing. But it's really about how we're going after it. And I've always been the dreamer. And I'm saying, I don't want to do this because I had nothing and I was told you could do nothing. I do nothing. And I'm like, well, that's bullshit. I'm going to do it. Just didn't know what it was going to be, and the fact that I own a gym and we're building a brand is just because I started training to feel better about myself or whatever. Even years ago, even before, I was still dealing with my addictions and stuff.
For sure.
The other thing I really like that you talked about is when you went back and 90 days later and you went back to work, you must have seen things differently as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's my perspective about what I needed. Well, first of all, I needed a lot less money because I wasn't drinking every day.
The burn rate was a lot less.
There you go. But my perspective on the value of my work relative to, or the value I attach to my work relative to the value of my dreams, like you were saying.
Okay.
That I really was getting curious about this idea that, well, if I wasn't doing this,
what would I be doing?
What would I be doing instead? And I want to go back to something you said a couple minutes ago about this idea that, in a sense, we all need to hit bottom somehow to have that epiphany to realize, hey, wait a second, maybe we can change things. For me, it's important that people know, or an opinion I have anyway, is that we hit bottom when we stop digging. And it's not that we have to wait for something to happen to us. Yeah. In my case, it was particularly dramatic, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
We have the power to control what happens to us in a sense, and that by that I mean if you want today to be the day that your life is going to change,
it's today.
Then it's today. Change it. Start right now.
Would you agree with me that even before you hit the bottom and I hit my bottom, we fucking knew. We knew that we had to make changes, and we knew we had issues to deal with, and we knew we could do better. Right?
Absolutely. It's for me this period of sobriety that I now have, which I've strung together 10 and a half years of 24 hours at a time, is not my first kick at the can.
Right.
So I knew probably 5 years before that what I'm doing isn't working. But I don't have any other tools in the toolbox.
Right.
So this is what I got.
Yeah.
This is what I can use. And
the devil,
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Because the unknown is super intimidating.
For sure.
Right. Not knowing, or I know I want to change, and I know I want to do something different, but I really don't know what that looks like, what that feels like, and that's scary as fuck.
Absolutely, it's terrifying. Which is just to open up the door and walk into that dark room and not knowing what you're going to find. But one thing about that, I read someplace or in one of my addiction recovery books, the mind is like a really dangerous neighborhood. Don't go into it alone.
Nice, I like that. That's pretty cool. Huh?
So the idea is, it's okay to ask for help, and as men, we don't like to do that. Yeah. I say to my wife, I say to my my employees, my colleagues, whomever, I got this. I can handle what's handed to me. Yep. And it's very much not in my nature to ask for help. But when we do ask for help, oftentimes we're going to get it. That people in general, if when someone asks me for help,
you want to help them.
I want to help them. Yep. First of all, I'm honored because they think I have the answer.
Right, you have the power. You have the source of the fix.
I have something that can help them. First of all, they think I have part of the solution, and that they think I might say yes. Yeah. And I think we as men, if we could view each other that way, right, we would be better off for it.
I think it comes down to a sense of self-worth as well, too, right?
Right.
When we are especially struggling with addictions, or we're struggling with those things, we have a poor sense of our self-worth. And to sit there and all of a sudden be in a position where someone thinks enough of us that we could be a benefit to them is really foreign at first.
For sure.
And then you feel like it's fake.
But it's validating, too.
Well, huge. You have to turn the switch on that. You have to appreciate that for that is, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure since, you've been sober and people know about it, and, since I've been sober and I've been, vocal about it, people reach out, right? And there's many times where someone say, Kurt, I think I have a problem, what should I do? And it's like, if I can, I'll drop everything. And well, is it a phone call? Is it a couple of emails? Is it come to a meeting? Is it get you to a meeting and stuff like that? I take that pretty serious. And it's the same thing in the fitness field. Someone comes and wants help to change their life, fitness-wise, health and fitness-wise. It's the same thing. That's why I built my business around it. And it's to always try to remember that, too. Because sometimes, as having a business, we get busy with the business of the business, that sometimes we have to remind ourselves why we're doing it. Absolutely. And what that issue is and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely. One thing that's interesting about the why is what I have above my desk is I have a picture of me when I was probably 4 years old.
Okay.
And I remember, I claim I remember this
you remember
day.
That day
Maybe I remember the picture because the picture brings the
right.
memories. And I'm walking down this trail in the woods. We were on a family vacation somewhere. And I have this look of joy on my face that only a 4-year-old kid can have. And I have that above my computer monitor just to remind me of the why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because we all have our inner 4-year-old or our inner kid that still has this capacity to feel this pure joy.
Yeah.
And on the days that are tough, whether it's with my sobriety or with my business or my personal finances or my job or whatever, it's nice to have that reminder that I'm doing this because I want my life to be happy, joyous, and free.
Yeah.
And I want my tomorrow to be better than my yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be uncomfortable sometimes. It's okay to working hard is uncomfortable.
Yes.
And it's okay to feel that discomfort, knowing it's going towards this
It's got
joy.
a reason. There's a reason for it.
There's a point to it, for sure.
And I think we've talked on previous episodes about having a purpose, right? And that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, and I mean, there's 4 of us in the room. There's yourself, there's Kevin, and there's Luke. And I think we would all agree that where we're at is that we realize part of what's helping us move further is the fact that we have a purpose. And the bigger the purpose, the better the purpose, the clearer the purpose, the easier it's going to be. And easier, not meaning it's going to be easy, easier, right? So, sober, along the way, you start training, exercise. So obviously a great way to channel some of the things that we would normally medicate booze with.
Absolutely.
Right?
A great way to take out the garbage.
Right, exactly. So with training, and that's one thing we talk about, is that the clarity of the mind after a great workout, there's nothing like it.
Right.
Your problems haven't changed, but your perspective on them often does 45 minutes later. When you threw yourself in the training, did you throw yourself in 110%? Like, I mean, I think that's one of the issues that sometimes especially if we're struggling with addiction, is that we have an addictive personality. Right?
Absolutely.
So sometimes we'll replace an ism for another ism, ideally, hopefully a better ism along the line. But what was that like for you? Did you find yourself that you got into it and you went like all in?
When I started training with Shane at Phys Extreme, CrossFit 819 there, it was twice a week, then it was 3 times a week, then it was 5 times a week, then it was... I was up probably to 10 sessions over 6 days.
Twice a day,
do the morning and night and go back for more. And because when you start training, it's easy to hit PRs.
Yeah.
It's easy to lift more than yesterday when, in relative terms, when it's new.
Yeah.
But that takes a toll also. Yeah. So finding balance in it is for me took a few months to kind of sort out, well, okay, how can I fit this thing that I really enjoy into the context of my life, with my job, with my family, with the relationship with my spouse, etc. And so that's something you keep in mind. But there's no better feeling in the world than doing something you've never done before. So whether it's a PR deadlift when it's running farther than ever before, or
shaving time off a run, or the improvement, and just there's something to be said for just feeling spent after a workout.
Absolutely.
Right? That's huge. And I think what I like that you brought up is that you also learn how to handle that other high. Right. And understand that that's a wonderful thing. And then we see it in the gym a lot too. We'll have 2 types of people that join. The ones that join and barely show up, which is not good.
Right.
But then there's the ones that join that show up too often. And we know that down the line that's not good too, because there's going to be a point in time where there's a burnout, right? Or something happens and then all of a sudden it drops off. and it gets replaced with something else. Now I'm a stamp collector. I don't know who fucking collects stamps and who would admit that. But I mean, I don't know what a hardcore stamp collector, their day's like. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just, and that's the other thing too, is what I liked is that you talked about learning to achieve some balance with that as well. Because the danger is we go so far and then we get tired of it or burnt out or whatever, and then that's gone. And then we're going to find something else to replace it with, right? So that balance, I think if we talk to anybody, that's one of the other skills that we need to learn is balancing the personal, the families, the business, that kind of stuff. Because I mean, you know, given the opportunity of where I want to spend my day, you know, 9 times out of 10 it's at work because I enjoy what I'm doing, or it needs me, or it, you know, I want it to need me, or whatever, right? And that's that other fine line that I find is something that we have to start working on and be cognitive of, because it's much easier for me to go hang out for the afternoon at work than it is for me maybe to, you know, fix the fence in the back.
Absolutely.
Kind of thing, right?
Absolutely,
kind of
for sure.
So along the way, you started Pure Strength Bar.
Yes.
How old is that? How long has that been going around?
So, so part of my evolution from being an office worker, being a desk jockey, to where I am now, I started teaching part-time, like I said, at the local college. And
what were you teaching?
I teach economics.
Okay,
so I teach
cool.
economics and statistics, which
Right. It's exciting.
It's very exciting. If well, not everybody likes it, but it's important. So so I do like it.
Yeah,
though.
for sure. I'm just messing with you.
But like I said, when I was started training more and started getting more aware of my
Food.
personal nutrition, my food choices, I started toying with making my own protein bars, making homemade protein bars. That was in 2013.
Okay.
So in 2013, I came up with, I guess, what we would call the very first recipe for Pure Strength protein bars.
Prototype 1A.
Yeah, 1A.
Yeah.
So of course, I'd make them in bigger batches because, you know, as a recovering addict, I do everything kind of bigger than I need to, right?
That's right. The kitchen table now is a production.
Yeah, that's it. So I'd bring those to the gym and share them with the folks at the gym that I would train with, and Shane Miller actually, after about 6 months of sharing the bars, I brought some into him one day, and he said, "Phil, you got to start selling these.
Mm-hmm.
These are that good."
Yeah.
And so that's when I got the idea. Hey, wait a second. Mm-hmm. You know, I trust my strength coach to tell me what to do in the gym.
Yeah.
And I rely on him for nutrition advice.
Right.
And so if he believes that this is something that could fly,
Yeah.
maybe he's been right about other things.
So far, so good.
So there
Yeah.
we go. And so that's when I started really beginning to take it seriously. So Prototype 1A was back in 2013. And I went through 214, we're up to 215th version of the recipe now. So it's evolved a lot over those that 5-year period. But so what we have today is Pure Strength protein bars. My company is called StrongBars Nutrition.
Right.
My last name is Armstrong,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I make protein bars.
Yeah,
So StrongBars, it seems to make sense.
Yeah.
So the company's StrongBars Nutrition, and the protein bars are called Pure Strength.
Yep.
Organic ingredients, whey protein isolate from New Zealand, and then nothing else is added to them. So no flavors, colors, sugars, or preservatives are added. Kind of what you see is what you get. And what I wanted was to have the biggest possible calorie content in the smallest possible serving.
So very calorie dense.
Very dense
nutrient
product,
dense.
absolutely.
So, and for me, again, being an entrepreneur, I love all that stuff, right? Necessity, you know, something cool happens. But the other thing that I like is that the 214th rendition, and this is something that Kevin has spoken about earlier, is that not waiting until things are perfect. It's going to be messy. There's going to be, you know, other renditions. You know, we always say that if you wait till it's perfect, you waited way too long. If you're not embarrassed by the first version, you waited way too long. You know, that kind of thing, right? So there's that point where you took that plunge overall. And
Well, sorry to interrupt.
No.
It's either never the perfect time,
Right.
or it's always going to be the perfect
That's
time.
right.
And it depends on how we view the world.
For sure.
And back when I was drinking and using, it was never the perfect time to make a change.
Right. Not today.
Not today.
Tomorrow.
No, I'll next pay, next
Yeah,
week,
yeah,
next
yeah,
month.
yeah.
If I can only make it till September, I'll be fine.
It's tough week at work. I got to get through this and stuff like that.
But if so, part of my mindset changed into it's not perfect, but it's better than before.
Yes.
And better than before is good enough. If we can do that every day, better than before can be pretty significant.
Huge.
A drop in the bucket
Every day
eventually will cause a flood.
Yeah.
And that's how I see things.
So how was it for you, coming from, the addiction, starting a business, and then those of us here that, have our own business, we understand there's some fucking stressful days.
Yes, there are.
Right? So what was that like? What was it like trying, working to maintain your sobriety,
right,
but dealing with the stresses of business? And we're talking about everything from this fucking label isn't coming out right to there's no money in the bank today to, that kind of stuff. Like what are some of the strategies that you use that allowed you to get through that? Because I think that's something that other people need to hear, is that just because the switch happened and you hit bottom and you made the changes, it's not a romantic rocket ship ride to the fucking moon of perfection after that. There's still days where it's going to be so easy to step back, fall back into what you were doing. What are some of the strategies that you use to deal with that?
A good piece of advice that I got early on in my sober life was someone told me, Phil, whatever you put ahead of your sobriety, you will lose.
Okay.
Because if you go back to drinking, whatever you put ahead of your sobriety, you're going to lose it all. Mm-hmm. So for me and my wife and family are very clear about this too, that I need to invest. I know, and they know as well, that I need to invest whatever time necessary into staying sober. Okay. Whether that's avoiding certain people, places, or things, or whether that's ensuring that I'm around other certain people, places, or things.
Your circle of influence.
Absolutely. So I do have a supportive family in that way, that they understand what I need to stay sober. If I stay sober, chances are good things are going to happen. Yeah. If I don't, chances are bad things are going to happen that I want to avoid. So to go back to your question about how do I handle the bad days,
yes,
it's important to keep in mind that what my priorities are. My priorities are to ensure that I'm around the right people, places, and things, so that my sobriety comes first. Mm-hmm. And then this might sound like a bit of a surprise, speaking as an entrepreneur, but my business doesn't come second to my sobriety. What I know I need for me is I need to get a minimum amount of exercise every day. Mm-hmm. So I structure my day to ensure that I have an opportunity, preferably in the morning, but I'll take it whenever I can get it, is some time dedicated to venting all of the negative stress through either going running or lifting something heavy, or even if it's just doing push-ups in the basement.
So we go back to rituals.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So part of your rituals are daily, right?
Right.
Physical activity is one of them.
Absolutely.
Do you ever have a day where, like, just fucking you got 2 shitty emails, a terrible phone call, and a batch just fucking went wrong, and then you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna hit 100 push-ups right now. Like, have you had that kind of day? Is that some of the things that you've had to do?
That happens probably once a week, I'd say, for sure. Is that, but knowing what I need, being aware of what I need, at the shop where we do all of the production, where my office is, I have a barbell, I have some kettlebells, and if it gets to a point where it's like, okay, everybody, this has got to stop.
Yeah.
I'm going outside. I'm gonna come back in 15 minutes, and I'll be in a better mind space. Yeah. And during those 15 minutes, if I do hill sprints up and down the street where the shop is, or if I do some kettlebell swings, or if I do 50 deadlifts,
right?
Whatever is available to me at that time, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So if I have those two things, if I put my sobriety first, I have the opportunity to manage my physical health through whatever exercise I can get. Then I find I'm in a better mindset or a mind frame for the remainder of the day. The other thing that I learned early in sobriety, and it stuck with me, is that my state of mind depends on how tired I am. So at the end of the day, and that's often when I get to my emails, and the emails where people are asking for money and people are proposing problems and why don't I have my order on time?
It's magnified, right, at that point?
It all blows up in my mind and it's too much.
Yeah.
I'm mindful of the fact of when I'm tired, I tend to view the world in a negative way.
Okay.
So what I do is I just put that aside. I say to myself, and possibly to the
Situation.
or to the person sending the email,
Yeah.
we're gonna look at this in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, I'd say 99 times out of 100, when I wake up in the morning, I'm in a more positive mind space, and I have a better ability to manage the situation. So even just knowing what I bring to the table at any given moment in terms of the amount of energy that I have, the creativity that I have, and the positivity that I have, it is helpful too in managing those stressful moments where everything seems to be going wrong.
I think what you're touching on there, I like, is that being self-aware.
For sure.
So there's a what's that when you like use words that are connected by initials? What the hell's the word I'm looking at? An acronym. Thanks, guys. Thanks for fucking just staring at me there all like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah,
were you going to say a pentagram? What are you going to say? And the word HALT is something that we talked about before, and it came to me. And typically when we're in a less than optimal situation for ourselves, or less than optimal state of mind, the word HALT is something I try to look at now. And basically it's HALT. So it's either hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
That's it.
Right? And that's something I listened to podcasts on from Bedros Koulian, the guy who does fitness stuff. And that's what he says, is that's something he got from his therapist, right? And this guy is someone who looks like he's got his shit together, definitely at a higher level than I do. So it's one of the people I look to for information as well and motivation. And that's what he said. He came up, first off, that he sits with a therapist, ongoing, which I thought was really cool. Going back to what you said, as men, we feel that we shouldn't say, we're having issues and we need help and stuff. But he said that word HALT came up, and that whole, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And that's what I'm trying to do more and more, is that, okay, is this situation, if it's there's a situation. I believe that. But number two, is it amplified because of these four possible states that I'm in? And if it is, then, like you said, come back to it, right?
Absolutely.
If it's not, then deal with it. And if it's in between, then I kind of try to pick the battle and say, hey, you know what? I'm having an issue with this, and we need to discuss this week or tomorrow or later on and stuff. So sometimes I feel that I also need to make a little bit of a step in that right direction before stepping away. And that's maybe part of the fucking alcoholic in me that just always wants to get things done or done my way, that sometimes I have a hard time doing that step back thing. The old 24-hour rule, right? If you're going to send an email and it's kind of angry, wait 24 hours and read it again before you send it. It's some wise advice. And I think that's important, but it's recognizing that state that you're in and realizing that you may be perfectly in your right to be angry at this situation, right? Or upset by it. That's okay. But it's not always the right time to deal with it overall.
For
right?
sure.
That kind of
Absolutely.
thing. So I think that's really important. So let's go back to when you talk about rituals. Do you have a set style or amount of rituals that you do in the morning? Like, do you have a procedure? Hey, I get up and I do this, this, and this before I start my day, or is it not quite that structured? How is that for you?
Well, let me start with the end of the day first, which sounds a little backwards, but for me, what I try and do is I try and turn off all of the social media at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So there's no social media after 9 o'clock, and then there is no electronics after around 9:30 or 10 o'clock. So
and you go to bed at 9:35 then?
No. I go
because I'm like, why do you stay up after that? It's off. Go to bed. Yeah. Okay, but cool.
Usually, so I'm in bed trying to be asleep at let's say 11 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Which is a ritual. So even on Friday and Saturday night, 11 o'clock is about my limit.
Right.
And then before that, I try and dial back on the social media and on the electronics, so that
remove the stimulus.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that when it's time to sleep, I have a chance of actually sleeping.
Okay.
So my mind doesn't run away with all of the things I've done wrong throughout my entire life.
That's right. Yeah. That's always waiting to fucking appear at the moment's notice, right?
Right when you need it.
Yeah.
But then, so in the morning, the routine is basically we have 2 young kids at home, so
Okay. How old?
7 and 9.
Oh, yeah, still young.
So,
Yeah. Still likable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, mine are 50 and 17. It's 50-50 now.
Okay, there you go. Oh, what I have to look forward to.
That's right.
So once they are where they need to be, whether it's school or day camp or
Yeah.
whatever is happening that day or that week, if I can, the first thing I do is 20 minutes on the treadmill.
Okay.
I have again, knowing what I need and knowing what I bring to the table. I put some money down on a treadmill to it's in my basement.
So it's there.
It's there. I don't have to take time to figure out, okay, what am I going to wear? Where are my shoes? Where's my water bottle? It's all right
The resistance is less and less to getting to it.
20 minutes on the treadmill takes 20 minutes.
That's right.
And that's and that's a manageable chunk for me. So 20 minutes on the treadmill, I can crank out maybe, depending on whether I'm trying to run fast or
Right.
just put in some time. I do a couple of miles, let's say. And then during those 20 minutes that's when I usually get those first emails of the day.
Start rolling in.
That whether they are from suppliers or from customers or
Right.
from my staff or whatever else is going on. So when I get off of the treadmill and I stretch, I have an opportunity to reflect on, okay, how am I going to address the issues that come up in these emails?
Right.
So that takes about 40 minutes, let's say.
Okay.
Then shower, eat, straight to the shop, and start my day with the daily production of the bars. We make bars every day, 5 days a week.
Okay.
So there's the daily production that goes
So when
on.
we get them in a package in front of us, as I went out, they're pretty fresh.
Absolutely. The bar you're holding in your hand was made this week. I can't
Okay.
tell you which day because
Yeah.
I can't see the bar actually.
Right.
But so they're always made within a week of when the customers actually receive them.
So is that because that's a standard, or is that just supply and demand, and you're just trying to keep up? Like, where do you fall with that?
That was my choice.
Okay.
When I started this company, one thing I marveled at was some of the large protein bar companies that are out there.
Right.
Well, first of all, one of the reasons why all protein bars taste the same is they are all made with basically the same ingredients, with using basically the same equipment. And they're made in batches of, I'd say the minimum batch size that I've found across all of the companies that make bars is between $250,000 and $500,000.
I was going to say about $500,000 and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah,
So
for
and,
sure.
and they can crank that out in a day.
Oh yeah.
So you pick up a bar in the grocery store or wherever. There's a best before date on it,
Right.
but that doesn't
It could have been months before it even made it to the shelf.
no indication of when it was made.
On a standard bar like that, what's the shelf life? Is it a year? Is it 6 months?
So most of the bars that are in the industry, I'd say, is about a year.
Right.
Mine are 3 months if they're kept in the fridge,
Right.
6 months if they're frozen.
Right.
But what I recommend is that people consume them within a couple weeks of ordering them.
Right.
I mean, they're best. Everything is better
Best
when
fresh,
it's fresh.
for sure.
So why not?
Yeah.
So what I've decided to do there is just maintain my production to ensure that I never have inventory longer than a week.
Okay.
And that's my choice.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's my business.
Well, I think,
and
I think going back
that
to
way.
even the economics of things, it's actually pretty smart too. You're not sitting on a bunch of stock that's just sitting there and accruing, debt and expense and stuff. So you get it out. But I think the cool part of it is the freshness of it, and even just your standard behind it is, sounds like you're just like we insist on fresh bars.
Absolutely. And why? And to me, it's a surprise that more companies don't do that. That there's this sort of a just-in-time production that could be done. That when you buy meat or dairy
Yep.
or these other things, they're consumed within a month of production. Let's say so. It's feasible in all sorts of different foods. So why not this one?
So being at this level in the bar business now and stuff, and knowing that and wondering that, why do you think it is that way, where it is, not as fresh and just in time? What do you think the advantages are in the industry that they're doing it that way? Is it cheaper in the long run for them to do mass production? Is it just more logistics and stuff like that? Is it just that's just the way it's always been done and that's how they're doing it?
I think it's all of those things.
Okay.
What it comes down to, for the most part, is the economics of it, the dollars and cents, that the more we produce in one run, the lower the unit cost is, and therefore the higher profitability of that business. But I think there's more to it than that. That not to imply that other people don't,
Right.
but for me, it's important that when I put the product that I made into someone else's hands, I can look them in the eye and said, care was taken when this was made.
Yeah, for sure.
And that matters to me. I mean, this is something that my kids have as a snack. This is something that my kids' friends or my friends, their children will have as a snack. And so it's important to me that they know that what we make is the best possible version of what we can make.
Well, the other thing, and Kevin and I were talking about that earlier because we were just talking a little bit about, the beard oil company we want to do and we're working on. And what's important is that whatever you do as a business is that you create your story.
Absolutely.
And it's the story that people are buying into. And it's the story that gives your company its intrinsic value and stuff. So part of your story, I can tell right away, is the care for the product and the quality of the product and wanting it to be a certain way. And I think that's important too, is that, you want your company to operate a certain way.
Absolutely.
And I know what's challenging, even on my end as a company, is I know where I want things to go. And you have to deal with the frustration of you're here and where you want to go is further up or further down the line. So you're always evolving.
Absolutely.
We're always raising your standards, and the hard part is as you raise standards, it changes things. It changes things in your company, it changes the people in your company, it changes you in your company.
Absolutely.
And that's a hard part because I'd say when we go back to that running a business and sometimes where you just get tired, you kind of question that always wanting to improve and change and evolve and stuff. But I also think that's what's going to make you ultimately successful, but ultimately happy with your own journey at the end is doing that, right? And that's a struggle that I know we've gone through over the years where we've had to change personnel and we've had to change people and who we deal with and what we do because I keep wanting to change the standard, my standard, and improve it, make it better. Because for me in the gym business, you can do a push-up anywhere. Absolutely. I want to make it that when you do it in my facility, it feels different.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. And I want some people come in and love it and not want to train anywhere else because of that vibe, but be different enough that other people will come in and go, oh, this is not for me. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, and I think that's the other thing, that's the struggle in the entrepreneurship, is that you want to create something, that experience that is truly unique, but in doing that, you always have to keep pushing and adjusting and raising standards for yourself and your company and for your people. Because I imagine the people you work with now, that work for you now, aren't necessarily the people that started with you how many years ago.
Well, that's true. That's true. That we've evolved over the time that we've been doing this, and it reminds me of a saying that I heard. I forget where actually, but it goes like.
And claim it as yours.
Yeah. Okay. This is my.
That's
saying.
right.
Yeah. Here we go, and that is, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh, I like that.
And that,
you know who said that? Kurt Haas said that. I remember writing that down a while ago.
I heard that.
I must have put it on Facebook, and that's where you saw it. That is awesome. Say that again. I like it.
Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's awesome. That's a keeper.
And what?
That's really good.
But I think that's what, as entrepreneurs, we need to keep in mind when you say it's really about the story. Mm-hmm. The story for me is. Mm-hmm. I really want people to know I care about nutrition. I feed this product to my kids. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is something that I make available to them because I know I believe in the quality of it because I care about it. And
you're giving it to the most important people to
absolutely.
You, right?
Absolutely. Man. And when you're talking about someone coming into your gym and the experience that they have, it's because you genuinely care that they have that experience. Yep. And that matters more than the product itself. That matters more than the actual exercise itself. It's the person behind the brand actually gives a fuck about what they're doing.
And the hard part with that, Phil, is scaling that.
Absolutely.
That's hard because in the past when I've had retail stores and done things and had multiple locations, I was the only person that wasn't scalable. And that was some of the biggest lessons. And Kevin and I were talking about product business, and it's to find a way to how do I scale but still be the brand.
And that's the trick. Is it's really, really hard. What I look for the most when I'm looking for partners or employees or other people, collaborators, is I can train anybody to do the tasks that I want them to do, but I can't train anyone to have the right attitude. And that's the key, is just having
you can train the skills. You can't train that attitude. We were talking earlier about, no matter what you're doing as a job, you want to be that person that just does it really well. So if your job is a sweep, then fucking sweep the shit out of that floor and be good at it and take pride in it.
Absolutely.
But it's so hard to find these days. I think it's harder, and I think it's something that, we've lost in nurturing. I think, we were joking earlier, maybe not so much joking, but, Luke and I were talking, is part of the problem is people less and less have to worry about rent and stuff. They're living at home. They're, the hunger, the necessity to get shit done and go out and become something and provide is less and less, I find, these days. Life is too easy. And I think the problem is, what happens is we settle into this mediocrity and this whole, entitlement thing and stuff, where people haven't fucking put that sweat equity in yet, haven't had the break. You don't know what a shitty job is, right, until you've had a shitty job. But you can't appreciate a great job until you've had that shitty job.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
So between 10 and 11 at night, when I have no media but I'm not asleep, I read.
Right.
And so there's this Vietnamese philosopher that I was reading a while ago, whose name I can't pronounce. I'm sorry. But one thing I got from him was, you don't. Let me make sure I get this right. You have no idea how good it feels to not have a toothache unless you have a toothache.
Until you've had a toothache. We don't have it's like, you bang your head against the wall. Why? Because it feels so good when you stop.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's the idea of
the point of references aren't there.
And
right?
And that's I think what's missing.
When I hear the 20-some-year-old complaining about having to work and want every Saturday off, I'm like, well, fucking, who are you to get that? Right? Because you know what? If you're going to get anything done in life, and that's what I'm saying from a perspective when they're complaining that they're not where they want to be, but the same token, they don't want to work Saturdays and they don't want to work extra hours and they don't want to come in. Well, you know what? You're not going to get anywhere. Not unless you just, you hit something right at the right opportunity or whatever, but you're just not, because there's so many other people that are hustling underneath you to do it.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I spent 17 years as a desk jockey doing that, saying, well, why haven't I been promoted yet? Why don't I have more?
Yeah.
And finding something that suits me better, that I get joy from. I'm up before my alarm every day now.
Yep.
And that's not...
You want to get up.
I want to get up because there's stuff I want to get done because it feels good to have it done.
I taught a 5:45 a.m. class this morning because I made some changes at the gym. And I went to bed last night and I'm like, I better set the alarm. But you know what? I was up an hour before it because at the end of the day, it's important. Right? Do I relish getting up early like that again? No. But you know what? A, it has to be done. And B, I know once I get to the class, we're going to have a great workout.
And you care.
And I care. And I'm good at what I do. And I like what we do and stuff like that. Right? And at the end of the day, that's the stuff sometimes when things are a little dirty and you have to remember, you go, why am I doing this? And what's important to me? And you know what? Once I get there, it's going to be really good. So just get there.
Just
overall.
Get there. Just start.
So... the company now, is it full time for you now? Is it like, what's going on with that? Where are you at with that?
So is it full time for me? Yes, it's. I put in more than full time commitment to it for sure. We've got a team on the floor that takes care of most of the aspects of the production. Okay. We're coming out with a new flavor of bars. Okay. We have two new flavors actually coming out. There's a vegan version of the bars that's coming out, made with rice protein instead of whey protein. Okay. And then there is a version of the bars that uses almond butter instead of peanut butter.
That's the one you just gave me here today and stuff like that, yeah.
So for people who, for one reason or another, don't eat peanuts or don't eat peanut butter, they have an option for them as well.
Okay.
So,
and a different type of fuel source, right? A different fuel. Some people will run cleaner on an almond or versus a normal fat, right? So people can play with that a little bit as well.
Absolutely. And let's face it, variety is the spice too. So, I mean, we, in all of our food choices, variety is important. So I think it's important to offer a variety here as well. So we have that, and there's a couple other projects on the horizon that are still in the development phase.
Right.
So I don't want to get too ahead of myself.
It's always cool when things start happening, because then more things start to happen.
Momentum is a wonderful thing.
But then the hard part is balance, right? And focus.
sure.
I know that's what I suffer with, right? And at the same token, I've tried to go to the point where I'm just linear and focus on one thing.
Right.
And that's not my comfort zone either. I know I would go further, quicker, but I know how I'm wired, that if I don't have a couple other things that intrigue me and excite me, then I find I get stagnant, and I feel claustrophobic.
For sure.
That kind of thing. So that's been one of the things I'm continually working on. That's why I like the beard oil idea that we're working on, because it's entrepreneurial. We can still run it from, my facility, because we already ship products and stuff. So
Right.
so it's kind of a cool fit, but it also feeds that I want to do something different as well at the same time, that kind of thing. And that's that whole, how do I balance that? How do I make sure that I don't let go of one thing too soon before I grab the other thing?
Well, one thing that's interesting about that is because I'm the same.
Mm-hmm.
The more projects I have, the better somehow I feel about it. Is that through my sobriety, I've asked for help.
Mm-hmm.
So I do see a psychologist regularly, just
Good.
to sort of go through kind of where I'm at and where I want to be. But recently, I've hired them also as a consultant for the business.
Okay.
And so what we do is we meet regularly, once every few months, and we go over what does Phil as a CEO bring for the business versus what the business needs from Phil, the CEO.
So listening to what the business is saying.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because
Very powerful.
I as a recovering addict, as someone who likes to have 100 different things on the go, am I really doing what's best for my business? So I have this person who I check in with regularly, and they know me from my recovery, early recovery as well. So so they are better able to kind of act as the guardrails to keep the business plan.
Like a coach.
Absolutely.
Yes.
To ask for help.
Yeah, for sure,
Absolutely.
for sure. And that's the one thing you said earlier, and I want to come back to, is there's also that flip side, that when you start getting to the point where you start asking for help, that people can start asking for too much help.
Right.
And not take the responsibility of saying, hey, I know what I need to do based on the help I'm getting. You actually have to take that action as well.
Absolutely.
Right. And we see that on the addiction side, but we see that just in personality wise, right? Where all of a sudden there's always those people that always seem to need help. And I think that's one of my, if I've had a point where I'm afraid to ask for help, is I don't want to come across as always being, oh, fucking, this guy needs help again.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because I see that happening a lot on the other end of things. And I'm like, that's not good either. Right. There's people that always need help. Do you know what I mean? And not always need help because they're doing things improving and getting better. And no, they just always need help and they're not going anywhere and stuff like that. So I know that's, when we talked earlier about guys being afraid to ask for help, that's been one of my things, is I don't want to be perceived as that person that's always needing help for the same thing. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And to go back to, the people in my early sobriety who said, Phil, what did you do? You look so fantastic now.
Yeah.
You seem so much happier.
Yeah.
And then I tell them, and their response is, well, I don't want to do that.
Of course.
Well, then if you're not willing to put in effort,
That's right.
then as much help as I can provide, the result will be zero.
Yeah.
So it really is up to the individual to say, yeah, I need help to know what to do.
That's right.
But, I'm the only one who can deadlift the weight.
Well, and you know what? And it's funny because when people, always ask me, what's this, is this diet better than that diet? Is this workout better than that diet? And I go, that workout. And I go, you know what really works? Eating better and working out. And there's no, that's the magic bullet. It's not this bullet is better than the other and stuff. I power lift, you do more conditioning stuff. That's great. That's our thing. But bottom line is we do something.
Do something consistently over time.
For sure.
And
absolutely.
That to come back to something you said before too, is that people are looking for a quick fix.
The magic bullet, the secret.
That anything worth having takes a lot of work.
For sure.
And that's so, with the right attitude and the willingness to put in the effort, we can achieve lots of great things. But it's the willingness. You have to do the work.
Yeah.
And it's easier to do the work if you want to do the work.
Well, you have to. If you don't want to do the work, no one, you can't, lead a horse to water. If he's not going to drink, he's not going to drink.
Right.
The same token, for me, is if I see someone who's willing to work and they're trying hard, I'll help them all day long.
Absolutely.
But if I see that they're just not working, they're not willing to put the work in, for me, I turn the help off because it's just wasted. A, it's enabling.
Right.
Or B, you're just wasting it on them when you could be helping someone else who's ready to take the ball and run with it, and they really need more help, right?
Question I ask myself all the time, Phil, are you working as hard as you can?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes,
Yeah.
then I accept the outcomes that are around me because I'm working as hard as I can.
Yeah.
If the answer is no, I'm not working as hard as I can, well, guess what?
Yeah.
Maybe you could work a little harder.
And you know what? Quite often when we ask ourselves that question,
We already know the answer.
We already know the answer. And we know that, maybe I could be a little more focused today, tomorrow, last week, and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So how do we get Pure Strength bars in our hands? Where do people go? How does this happen?
So most of my sales are done online,
Okay.
so through StrongBarsNutrition.com.
Okay.
And
we'll throw that up in there as well. Yeah,
And how about we put a promo code for all of the Silverback listeners?
yeah, sure. What do you want? What do you give out? 80% off? Like, what are you good with?
Well, okay, I think... what
You looked at Luke. You were going to edit that part, right?
Why don't we go with promo code is Silverback?
Okay.
And that's 20% off for all your listeners.
Awesome, man. So you guys get that. Head on over to, what's the website for this?
StrongBarsNutrition.com.
So head over to StrongBarsNutrition.com. Use the code Silverback and get 20% off your order, guys. That's fantastic. So you get a hoodie and eat the bar. You could be warm and full. It's fantastic. Phil, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to do this. Obviously, you're a busy guy and stuff, but I think your message is super important. And your product is really cool. And we've carried it in the gym. We're going to bring it back in the gym as well. But at the end of the day, to me, you're a huge example of when you decide to make a change, you can make a huge change, and you've come from some really big stuff, that was not working well for you, to a point now where you've got a brand that's successful and growing, but most importantly, you're happy.
Absolutely.
Right? And to me, that's the goosebumps right there, man, is that you're happy doing something, and it wasn't that long ago you were miserable, right?
That's
it was at the end of the day, you're the one who made the change.
That's it.
And that's the message out there, guys, is that the moment you decide, like Phil said earlier, today's the day, today's the fucking day.
Just start.
Awesome,
That's
guys.
all you got to do.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Phil. Guys, thanks for listening. As always, head over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, leave us a positive rating. Head on over to hostilegear.com, use the Silverback code for 20% off. Head on over to, what do we say? I'm terrible with the names here.
StrongBars Nutrition.
StrongBarsNutrition.com. Use the same Silverback code to get 20% off. Get yourself some fresh-ass bars. They taste really good, guys. I'm looking forward to tasting the new one with the almond butter in that. And as always, guys, work hard, motherfuckers, and I'll talk to you guys later.